Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maarten Lamers. I'm a computer scientist at Leiden University. I'm a researcher and a lecturer. I teach in the Media Technology Master of Science program here at our university. And this session is about, informing you about the Media Tech program. And I'm not going to do that alone. I brought two of our students along, actually. And so perhaps they can introduce themselves. I think that would be a good idea. Tell us your names, and etc.
Good afternoon. My name is Femke. I'm currently a second-year media tech student. I am Dutch, as you can tell by my accent. And I did a bachelor's in future planet studies with a major in artificial intelligence before this program.
Hi everyone, I'm Trent Erickson. I am from California and I'm in my second semester here at Media Tech. And in my undergraduate, I did philosophy, specifically focusing on aesthetics. And I'm excited to be here.
So future planet studies and philosophy, that's already quite diverse, I guess. So the plan for this session is that that I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program. At moments, I'll ask Femke and Trent to join me, in informing you as well as possible about the program and how it is to be a student there. I mean, that's more their thing than mine, of course. And after I'm done presenting and telling you about the program, there's ample room for you to ask questions. And so then the three of us will, to the best of our ability, answer your questions. And hopefully that will help you make a good decision for your studies. So the Media Technology program, I'm going to tell a little bit about it. And first I want to start with, what's it about really? And the Media Technology program is a program that, and this is important to understand, it's about actual scientific research, about actual academic research. So that means our students are trained in some of the academic skills, like writing papers, making publications. We even send our students to conferences. These are all things that are, part of the program. When we say science, and this is always a difficult thing in Dutch, we mean academic, really. So it's not only about natural sciences and mathematics and physics and stuff like that. Our program also allows students to, explore their own interests in the field of humanities or even social sciences or philosophy. So, take that very broadly. Whenever I say science, see that as academic. Now, that's one aspect. The second aspect is that it's really about personal inspiration and creativity. We try to create academics, to make our students into academics with a maker's mentality. That means that they are creative, that they work from their own personal interest. And how do you recognize that into our program? Well, for example, a lot of the courses deal with media and also arts. So it's not only about academics and science, also about arts. And we even kick off by taking our students to the most important media arts festival in the world, and I'll say a little bit about that later. So this is how you would recognize this, let's say, personal inspiration and curiosity aspect in our program. Lastly, it's also about science by doing, we call it. That means we train our students to actually be able, to be capable to technically actually do stuff, build stuff. So we teach them programming, but also soldering or designing electronic circuits. You can also see this aspect in our program in the fact that many courses ask you to create something, sometimes a physical thing, sometimes a non-physical thing, like some software or even posters or other kind of things. And we have quite open projects where you can really explore or actually do things along the line of your own inspiration and curiosity. So that's really, what the program is about. Now, let me show you an example of a graduation work. So, sooner or later, every student will have to go through the graduation project. And here's an example from a student who graduated recently in 2023. His name is Olaf Wisseling. And his graduation project, so his thesis work, was about decoupling the physicality and the synthesis, so the physical interface and the synthesis of a musical instrument, but in such a way that both parts still had shared commonalities. So to make this a little more explicit, he basically designed three interfaces. He called them bar, rope, and string, with which a musician like himself could perform, basically, or could create music. They were experimental musical interfaces, and they had very physical properties that are normally associated also with the synthesis of the sound. When you pluck a guitar string, it's the guitar string is the interface, but it's also the physical device that actually creates the sound. Now, in electronic music, or in electronic performance really, these things are often decoupled. So you have the interface on one hand that takes the physicality of working with the device, translates that into some sequence of numbers, and then another device synthesizes the sound. Now, Olaf experimented with making bar, rope, and string, so physical interfaces, and then experimented with the relation between this interface and the sound synthesis to see if he could come to a new understanding of what that would mean. And to be honest, that went quite well. He uncovered that certain physical characteristics can very well be mapped onto, let's say, a digital synthesis system with a natural feeling, whereas others were more difficult. And it's not as obvious as you would think, this result. Now, what this project shows us, that's why I included it, it's really an academic project. This is a work that is very suitable to, and we're probably going to do this, to convert into an academic article and publish it together with the student. So that would be very interesting for a student and interesting for us. So that's the academic component. Also, it is very strongly based on the personal interests of Olaf. He has an interest in musical experimentation, in particular new forms of musical expression and new interfaces. So you really see that personal inspiration coming into this project. And lastly, you can think about it, you can write about it, you can read about it, but you can also just do it, just build it. And that's what this student did. He built these interfaces with all the electronics, he made it himself, incorporated the electronics in the interfaces. And so this shows, in my opinion, these three important aspects of the program in a single project. So that was a graduation project by Olaf. Before I join Trent and Femke a little more into the discussion here, let me tell you a little bit practical things about the program, some facts, right? So it's a program organized by the Leiden Institute of Advanced Computer Science. That's a very fancy name for basically the computer science department of Leiden University. And we have a collaboration with the Royal Academy of the Arts in The Hague, which is a city very close to Leiden, just 12 minutes by train, and the Royal Conservatoire, which is the fancy word for the Royal Music School of in that same city. The program has been around quite longer than many people suspect. We were founded in 2001. We're a 2-year program, so that means in European terms 120 European credits. It's a full-time program. We do not offer a part-time possibility. And if you complete the program successfully, you get a Master of Science degree from Leiden University, which is a very nice degree to have, to be honest. The program is in English. We have a significant portion of our students that have, let's say, an international background, or in other words, a non-Dutch background. So everything is in English. We have a very balanced, that's also nice. I'm just mentioning some facts here. It's a very balanced gender ratio, so that makes the community as a whole, nicely balanced. And sometimes students ask us, it's a logical question, how many students do you have per year? Well, generally between 30 and 40 per year, something along those lines. But we do not have a maximum. So it's not the case that we say, no, 40 is the maximum. We do not have a maximum, so that can be more. It can also be slightly less. Let's move on into what it looks like, what happens when you're in the program. I'd like to say a little bit about that. So let's look at the courses. Let's look at the first year. I said it's a 2-year program. Let's first look at the first year. Now, in the first year, you do a lot of compulsory courses, many compulsory courses that all our students have to do, basically. And here you see a list of these courses you do in the first year, and we grouped them in, more or less conceptual groups. There's a group that deals with conceptual skills for a student, right? So for that, we take them to a media arts festival. There's a course on strategies in creative and performing arts, but there's also technological skill courses like creative programming and hardware and physical computing. Then, as you may understand, we find it very important that students are comfortable in an academic environment. So we have some academic skills courses and what it is to be a scientist. And nowadays, it's important to understand the human context of technology, not just the technologies itself. So we have a couple of courses in that respect as well. Now, these are courses that all our students go through in the first year. So, I'm immediately looking to my right to Trent and Femke. Trent, let's start with you. Is there any course in this list, that stood out for you, or is there anything that you did in any of these courses that you're particularly proud of, or that you found fascinating?
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed the artificial creatures class. This was last semester with Peter, and
Cool.
I really liked it because there was a fairly short time to get a project running, and we had to basically create something that people could interact with in the class, and even people coming by could interact with it as well. And it was the first time I had done a project like that on that kind of a time scale, so that was a good challenge, and I really enjoyed it.
So when you look, as far as I know from this course, I'm not the teacher there, so the course is called Artificial Creatures, and it teaches you, how to think about a creature. Is that correct? And how to translate that into technological possibilities, perhaps?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's gets you to really. He takes you through the history of a lot of robotics and how interaction is developed and improved over years, and you're just given this opportunity to create something. And really nice. Yeah.
It's interesting when I look at that particular course because it's here in the conceptual skills and media realm, and I can understand that because it's not so much about the technology of building the creature, it's more about how you think about it. Is that correct, or is that how you experienced it?
Yeah, I think that it's a good mix of both of those, I would say. But it's the focus is to create something that makes a meaningful interaction between.
What did you create?
Well, we had basically a statue with a pair of headphones on the top, and once you put it on, you were inside the mind of the statue in a sense. So you were hearing the inner thoughts.
You were hearing the inner thoughts of the statue.
Yes.
Very interesting. And Femke, what about you? Is there anything in the first year that you're proud of or that you particularly enjoyed on this list?
One course I really enjoyed was Playful and Creative Science, because I kind of regard it as one of the core skills you learn in the program. So you keep it academic, but you approach it, your research in a non-conventional way, which is also like a useful skill to have during your graduation project, and also just the out-of-the-box thinking. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Now, I'm one of the two teachers of this particular course, one of the two lecturers who give this course, so I know about it, but people at home don't. So the course is called Playful and Creative Science, and what can you tell about the format of the course? How is the teaching? Is it very theoretical? Is it a book course, or?
There are lectures in which a lot of examples are discussed, and also so unconventional methods that you can use, unconventional questions that you can ask for research, and in the end you make a project in a group, which is also really nice to work together with people from different backgrounds. Yeah. Because you get so many different insights, so it's really, I really enjoyed that one also.
Cool. Hey, and you said it felt to you like a course that was very central in the program. So, Playful and Creative Science, I agree with you, definitely. But can you explain why it is, in your opinion, such a central course in this program?
Because I think in the end you are working towards a degree in a Master of Science, and so you might get the impression that you've got a lot of like crafting going on and making stuff, but in the end it serves a greater purpose, and like that's the academic research that you're doing. So you really
and also I think the media technology program. I mean, there are many academically shaping master programs. Obviously, you can do a master program in psychology or in literature or in physics or biology, and they're all academic, obviously. But I think what sets us apart is this playfulness. It's bringing playfulness and creativity into the academic process, really making it part of the academic process. I think that's, in my opinion, what the program is about. And so I completely agree with you that this is, in a way, a central course.
And also, it also really encourages you to chase your own interests, to really dive into what you find interesting.
Cool. Hey, and let me look at the other courses quickly. Is there any course that you guys think, it's nice to just mention that one shortly? I can do that, or you can do, but as long as you select the course.
So I thought non-human cognition was also pretty neat.
So non-human cognition.
Yeah.
So non-human in what sense? Animal sense or broader than that?
So we talked a lot about animals, but you can also think about fungi or plants.
Or robots.
Or robots. Yeah. So there are different spheres in which you can look at cognition, and that's also a nice, because it's like a lot of our lecturers are from the Creative Intelligence Lab, like the research group. So that was one of the courses I really felt had a connection with the research directly. So.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Now, so those are the courses in the first year. Just one group that I would shortly like to mention is the creative programming and hardware and physical computing courses. Those are the technical skills. Now, we find technical abilities important for our students, because if we want them to be self-sufficient, independent academics that are able to chase their own, let's say, academic dreams or academic interests or curiosities, then it's important for them to be able to really build their own stuff, right? To build their own stuff, for example, to build their own experimental equipment, to try stuff out. You often want to build something to try stuff out, or even to tell the story of what it is they uncovered in a way that is other than just a paper, right? Through, for example, an interactive installation or something. Now, this concept of interactive installations brings me to actually the next topic, and that is the Science to Experience project and exhibition. Now, let me explain to you shortly. Science to Experience is a course in the MediaTech program that you also do in your first year. Basically, students create an audience experience, an experience for a general audience, from a scientific insight that they want to translate into an experience. So they find their own scientific insight. We don't give it to them. And then they say, okay, this scientific insight I want to translate into an experience for a broader audience. And we organize actually quite a nice exhibition, I think, every year in an actual gallery. So students build interactive installations, some do performances, we've had games, we've had music, we've had films, all these kind of things. This is a central part also in the first year of the program. So Trent, so what did you do for this particular course, Science to Experience?
Yeah. So our group basically made a phone booth where you would pick it up and you had a conversation with a stranger, and you had two controls in front of you, and you had to figure out a way to make the audio clearer. So it was our way of engaging with the theme pattern, and yeah.
So you made a work in which your communication was purposely distorted by you guys, right? Electronically, I guess.
Yes.
And you, as an audience member, as a participant in that work, you would pick up the phone and really had to fiddle the knobs and try to get the communication going.
Yeah.
And you do that to bring across a message. Is that correct?
Yes. So we spend a lot of time in the lead up to this project thinking about the concept and how to translate this into an experience. And it's a really interesting process, because you're taking something maybe quite abstract or technical, and you're bringing it, really you're focusing it into an in-person experience. Yeah.
That's funny how you describe it, because that is exactly how I experience the students working on this project always. That's good to hear it from a student directly. Thank you. Hey, and Femke, what did you do for this project?
As a pattern, we chose the menstruation cycle, which is a bit left field maybe, but so we kind of wanted to critique the fact that there just isn't that many research on it compared to the part of the population that actually deals with it on a day-to-day basis. So what we did is actually make a mini exhibition, so kind of like you walking into a little museum, based on a paper that we completely fabricated on synchronizing your menstrual cycle with the moon cycle, which would have all these health benefits. So at the end, we obviously told people, this is not true, but the whole point is the fact that you even believe it or think it might be feasible is a direct result of there not being that much public knowledge. And it was really fun and also really satisfying to have these conversations with people after they experienced the work. Yeah. And you just don't know how people are going to react. But
I can see from the way you talk about it that it makes you proud, this project, and I totally understand.
Yeah.
Hey, and so that's in terms of the work that you created, but when in terms of it being a course, I mean, it's a part that every student has to go through. What do you feel, Femke, did this exercise did this course bring you?
So one of the things I found most interesting about this is that I would have never thought of doing something in an exhibition. If it wasn't for this course, I would never have gone through the steps to actually set up an exhibition.
It's not something you had in your bachelor program, for
No,
example.
not at all. So that was, a really nice look into, I don't know, you say in Dutch in another kitchen, but
So have a look in someone
Yeah.
else's kitchen. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, and so that course, this Science to Experience course, is part of the first year. Now, it's actually the end of the first year, right? It's how you end your first year in the media technology program with this big exhibition. Now, from that moment on, of course, there's a summer, etc., to enjoy. But then you move on into the second year of the program. Now, the second year, to discuss that, I'd like to split it into two parts called semesters. So half a year here at Leiden University is called a semester. And if we look at the first of these 2 semesters in the last year, it's mainly filled with what we call accent courses and elective courses. And basically, that's a semester when you start specializing, when each of our students basically starts following their own personal path of their own interest. And for that, we have 2 vehicles. The first vehicle is the accent course, and those are basically a bunch of courses that we teach as a Computer Science Institute and also as a Media Tech program, and you see them here in green. And students select 2 or 3 of these courses to do. There's AI and Society on there. That's probably not a course you selected because that'll start next year. So in case you're looking at what course is that, I've never seen that. That's a new course starting next year. And in the purple column, those are the elective courses. And every student has to take a number of elective courses, totaling anywhere between 10 and 18 ECs, depending on the accent courses that you took, or which ones and how many. Anyway, these elective courses, and that's very special about our program, you can choose them from basically anywhere, from the computer science department in our university, but also broader, from the whole university. You can do courses in the cognitive psychology department, philosophy, in the performing arts groups, computer science, I already mentioned that, I think. Anyway, so that's really up to you, but you can even take courses outside Leiden University. If there's particular courses that are not offered here and that really, that you feel that you need to specialize in a particular direction as a student, then you can request us to do these courses, and we generally agree because our students have always good reasons to do so. And then you can do these courses at different universities, such as Delft University or Amsterdam. I mean, these are just random places that students have gone to do particular courses. So this is the first semester in the second year, the first half of the second year. Now, if we move on from there, we get into the phase where you actually do your own graduation research project. And the graduation research project is a personal, really academic research. You really do an academic research. The different with other master programs is that the student is the boss of the research. In academic terms, it's called the principal investigator. Each student has 2 advisors for this graduation project, one from within the program and a specialist from outside. It can be somewhere from anywhere in the world. We've had advisors from very high-end universities, and that is always very nice. Students find people who are really interested in this research, and together with these 2 advisors, they actually do research. The students write an academic paper, not a long thesis of like 100 pages, no. They write an academic paper of, let's say, 12, maybe maximally 20 pages, which forms their thesis. And that has a big advantage that they can submit that for publication. So many of our graduation works are, in fact, published by students in peer-reviewed journals and conferences. Now, during this period of doing this graduation work, you will also take one EC course called Graduation Lab. And so you have the personal advisors, but there's also group-based guidance in this course. It's also where you connect with your fellow students to see what the status of their graduation projects is, how are they developing, what questions do they have. It's also possible to take extracurricular workshops. These are things that we organize not on a very regular basis, but as need comes. And for example, for the last few years, we've been organizing a course called How to Get a PhD Position, and I think it was before last summer, last winter, I think, publishing as a student. So these are things that we see our students are interested in. So we do extracurricular, basically, events to help our students in that. Now, let me give you another example of a graduation project before we return to our students. This is a project by Daphne Wong Afu. You see here on the right. In case you're wondering why she's scribbling on the walls of Leiden University, that's a 100-year-old tradition. If you graduate from Leiden University, you're allowed to sign the walls. And this is a very old tradition, so this is where she had just received her diploma and signed the walls. Now, Daphne is from Suriname originally, the country of Suriname in South America. And she had an interest in a particular dancing going on there. It's called Yaran Kapang dancing. It's from Javanese, so Indonesian origin, brought to Suriname by immigrants. And it's a dance where dancers get into a state of trance. Now, trance is a very difficult thing to study academically, but Daphne has a fascination for this particular dance and the trance aspect of it. And she started thinking about ways to study this, and she came across a method used in psychology to study people with dissociative identity disorder. Now, she realized, and that's the beauty of it, because from her interest, she dig deeper than most other students would, she realized that the methods of studying dissociative identity disorder could also be applied to studying trance, people who are in a state of trance, a mental state of trance. So that's literally what she did. She applied methods using EEG equipment to study Suriname local dancing and the trance state. And this was actually done so well that she's currently doing a PhD. So after graduating in 2021, she joined the Cultural Anthropology Department here at Leiden University. We are a very broad university with many, many different departments. And she's now working on her PhD in the field of cultural anthropology. She's now doing field work in Indonesia. And actually, I'm flying there in 2 months to meet her in Thailand and to discuss her field work. So it's nice how our students do research from their own interests and then discover that the university has an interest in their way of working, and in this case offers them a PhD position. I want to return to the topic of who are these students. You see two on the right here. You actually see one on the screen, that is Daphne. We've actually been thinking about this. What kind of students enter our program? And if we would have to make a profile of that, you'd say there are people that have a scientific or an academic interest. They're very often interested in conceptual thinking, not only engineering, not only applied thinking, no, conceptual thinking. They're not afraid of new ideas, and they like to create stuff. And when we say they are creative, that doesn't mean you have to be artistic. For example, I would be a good student in our program, I think, but I've never painted, I've never played a musical instrument, but still, I'm considered a kind of creative kind of guy. And I think that's important to realize. It's not a program where you need to be able to play a musical instrument or paint, for that matter. Now, so let me ask you guys, Femke and Trent, when you look at this list, right? I'm not sure if you've even seen this list before you applied for our program, but seeing it now, Femke, do you have the feeling that it applies to you? And I'm going to ask the same question to you, Trent.
Yeah, I do agree. I also, so especially the creative part, because it's nice that it's not necessarily artistic that's mentioned as well, because you can be creative in loads of different ways. So, for example, the way in which I'm most creative is finding solutions with very limited resources. My nickname is MacGyver, so by my boyfriend. So
that's a name to be proud of. I guess.
So cool. It's also in that way that you can be creative, and also something I would add maybe is independent.
Oh, nice.
Just not being afraid to.
Our students are quite independent, I think. Yeah. I don't know, do you feel that way, Trent?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I don't know if some of you all watching this right now are probably looking at this list and maybe you see things that you want to get better at or things that you're already good at. And when I look at what's here, I think I was intimidated first by the science part and the technical things. So it's a really nice profile to have these as like the criteria of sort of what kind of students are coming here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned Femke independent, but when I think of Trent, I know you're independent also because I know that from the fact, for example, that you have also arranged to do a summer school at, where was it?
This was Stanford.
Stanford University in California, and this is typically also something for MediaTek students. I know them to be very independent in, you know, finding their own way, arranging their own things, being very open to go across the world to visit conferences and talk to other academics. I really like that. What about being part of a student group? You both are part of a student group, obviously, of your year, basically. So how do you experience that, Trent? Is that is it like a community, or how should I see that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Compared to other places I've studied, I think the attitude here is very much a team-oriented disposition, and people are really there to help you. And there's just a really nice collaborative, I would say, environment with students. There's, it's a really nice environment. Yeah.
It's the impression that I get from students. Obviously, I don't spend all my time among the students, but I get the impression that they, also outside the classroom, form like a community that organizes stuff together, and that's an interesting thing. I think I'm gonna continue with the end of the presentation, and then we can see what questions there are from home. But before we do that, I know that many people at home are always, or people who are interested in the program always have questions about, so how do I get admitted into the program? So let's say a little bit about that before we move on to the questioning session. There's a few requirements, and some are really hard and some are known as qualitative requirements. And a hard requirement is you need to have a bachelor's degree before you can be admitted into the program. It's okay to apply to the program before you have the bachelor's degree. That's completely okay. But when you actually start a program, so let's say, for example, September 1st, you need to have that bachelor's program. It's interesting to know that we do not have a restriction on what the bachelor program is about. So let me see if I got this straight, Femke. It was Future Planet Studies and Trend Philosophy, right? Yes. Already very different. Can you guys say something, for example, about a bachelor program that your fellow students maybe did? Is there something interesting in there? I see you smiling, Femke, so probably there is.
With this question, I always think of our groupmate who has studied tax law.
Oh, yeah. So we don't have many tax lawyers entering our program, but we do have one, and she was part of your Science to Experience group, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or of your year, at least?
No, another group, but I worked with her a couple of times, so yeah.
And Trent, do you know of any interesting backgrounds?
For our program, I feel like there's a lot of bioinformatics people.
I know this. There's many people with a bioinformatics background, but there's also a musical composer in your year. I know you worked with him on several projects. There's many students with a musical background, arts background, but there's also students with, let's say, more technical backgrounds, like the computation or biological informatics, bioinformatics backgrounds. But in any case, basically, the bachelor's degree as a qualification is a general qualification, in the sense you need it, but it doesn't matter which bachelor degree that is. There's some known as qualitative admission requirements. You need to be able to substantiate your affinity with academic research. That's very important. You also need to have a certain level of academic skills, and I guess the website will tell you exactly how to measure that or how to substantiate that. Plus, we only accept students who have at least basic computer programming skills. You can have advanced programming skills, obviously, but you need some basic degree of computer programming skills. And if you don't have that, don't worry. It's possible to obtain those via an online course, and our website tells exactly which course that is. I think the course webpage says it's approximately 28 hours, but I've heard from students who took it that they said it can be done faster than that. But if you do not have a bachelor in a computational field, then you really need to do this course. I already see now that there's a question coming in already from Robert Weber. Let me see if I can read it out. I like to think I tick all the requirement boxes besides programming. I lack that knowledge and I would like to attend the basic programming class. Do I apply to this master before, during, or after I finish that preparatory course? Good question, Robert. And it also says you're a bachelor student from Germany. Well, first of all, thank you for the question. You can apply before you do the course. Don't worry about it. The rule is that you need to have achieved that level of programming, so that online course, by the time the program starts. Right? So if you want to apply for the MediaTek program, You can already apply for it, not a problem at all. And then as long as you complete this course somewhere before you actually start the program, that's the rule. So yeah, that's a good question, by the way. There's also a question, a related question by Lilith Arakelian. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, Lilith. But Lilith asks, I do not have enough technical skills in my studies, and I don't have experience with working with technology. What should I pay attention to in my application? That's interesting. So first of all, the same as I just told Robert applies to you, the same as holds for every student. If you do not have programming skills in your previous bachelor program, then you need to somehow acquire those skills, for example, via the online course. I'm not sure that's the question you asked, but what are the requirements for the placement letter you also asked? What is the most important thing to mention? Basically, look at these qualitative admission requirements. Sometimes we get placement letters for students who just say, you know, I can do this, I can do that, I've done this, I've done that. That's not it. We also need to substantiate an interest in academic research. That's an important aspect. Actually, the technical side, you don't have to place too much emphasis on that because we can simply see what bachelors you have, what courses you did, and whether you have those skills. So I would not focus on the technical side. I would focus more on the, let's say, substantiating your research interests. There's another question coming in, but I would like to ask the director here. I would first like to complete my presentation, if that's okay. And then we can go back to this question. There's a question for you, Trent. That's really nice. We'll be back with you, Lilith, in a moment. One thing I did not mention yet, and I really want to mention this, it's the yellow bar at the bottom now. Every student goes through a matching interview as part of the admission process. The matching interview is an interview where we actually talk about these qualitative admission requirements. It's an important part of your admission. So I know the next question is for you, Trent. Lilith said she had a question for Trent. So I'm going to ask this one for Femke. How did you experience the interview?
The interview was a nice way of finding out whether the program was a good fit for me.
Was it not scary?
No, not really.
Oh, good.
No. I just knew I really wanted to do it, and the content of the program also really. So if you're not sure what you're actually going to do, like I really recommend you go through the prospectus with the course descriptions, because from that I could really tell that this is something that fit me, and that was actually kind of, that's why I wasn't really nervous for the matching interview, really.
Okay, you mentioned prospectus. Actually, on the next slide, I'll show it now, is a website, and we always, oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong button, I guess. Let's go. Oh, this thing doesn't seem to work anymore, Mr. Director. Yeah, there it is. We always recommend our students to go to the website that's shown here. There's two websites. There's let's say, a shallow one that's maintained by the university central offices. It just has the basic information. And there's one maintained by the program itself, by us, by the teachers, etc. And that's the one shown here. And if you've not visited it yet, in any case, visit it. Even if you think you visited, go there again. It may be a different website. So the address that you see here, mediatechnology.leiden.edu. If you go there, you'll go to the actual website that we maintain. It has much more information than the prospectus website, to be honest. So maybe this is a good moment to go back to the interview. The questions. There was a question by Lilith, and I'm going to read it out, Trent. It says, "Hello, Trent. I have a bachelor in philosophy as well. How did you combine your academic experience with the media technology master program?"
That's an excellent question. Yeah, thank you for that. It was really interesting because I did aesthetics in my philosophy degree, which is focusing on what is the nature of beauty. And I think that as a foundation under something like a MSc in media tech is really helpful because it helped me focus on writing better and focusing arguments and just really being clear about how I'm expressing things. So I think that it's actually a really great combination with what you're going to learn in this program because it will provide, say for instance, for the S2E final project, it's like a great boost for something like that. So I think the philosophy degree is actually quite a good combination.
That's interesting because I can totally see that, even though I did computer science myself. But I know from experience that we've had more students with a background in philosophy An interesting anecdote is that one of our students, who was also from the USA, also had a background in philosophy, and when she wanted to do as an elective course in a MediaTech program, an elective course, she wanted to do deep neural networks, so that's pretty advanced AI, and the teacher of the course came to me and said, one of your students applied for my course, and she doesn't seem to have a strong mathematical background. So what should I do? Can I admit her in the course? And I said, well, just give it a try. Make it her responsibility, not yours. And he did that. And then I was a little bit fearful. I thought, how is this philosophy student going to deal with all the algebra and calculus? And then a few months later, the same teacher comes to me and said, I want to tell you, she had the highest grade in the course. So she's in a course with all these computer scientists as a philosopher, and beats the highest grade in the course. I thought it was pretty impressive. Let's see, there's another question. What programming and the question is from Anne de Jong. What programming language will you learn during this master? And will a CS50 certificate in Python, Intro to Computer Science, also suffice for basic computer programming skills? Perhaps I'm the one who can best answer this question, I think. So during the program, you will mainly learn, we will start in processing as a programming language. And the reason is it's an imperative programming language, very well suited for education. Also, we're not computer scientists all, but we're embedded in the computer science department. And what computer scientists really understand is that languages are not very important. It's not about the language itself, it's about the paradigm within which the language falls, so which group it belongs to. Now, Python, for example, falls into the empirical paradigm, the same as processing, or, for that matter, the Arduino language. So those are two languages that you will learn in our program, but you will also learn pure data. That's a language from a different paradigm. It's similar to Max MSP, perhaps you've heard about it. Pure data and Max MSP are both from the visual programming paradigms. We will also teach you that. Depending on what elective courses you then take, well, they may teach you or require to know other programming languages, such as Python or some other ones. But we will start with processing, Arduino, and pure data. Now, your second part of your question is, will a CS50 certificate in Python or an Intro to Computer Science course also suffice for basic computer programming skills? Now, to be honest, I'm not fully sure what a CS50 certificate is, but I'm assuming it's kind of like a very...
It's a course by Harvard, I think. We did part of it in my bachelor's. And
oh, you did?
I would say that the basis that you learn, like the core principles, like for loops, while loops, if statements, that kind of stuff, is really well explained there. So I would say it's the proper basis for learning processing.
Okay. Well, generally how to deal with this is that if you apply, you simply say, in your placement letter that you feel that you have met, if you feel this way at least, if you feel that you've met this basic programming requirement, write in the placement letter why you feel you've met it, and then in the interview we'll discuss it and make a decision. And to be honest, when I listened to Femke here and I saw Trent also nodding, apparently you know what a CS50 course is as well.
Not exactly.
No.
I know now.
But I get the feeling, particularly then from you at least, Femke, that it would probably suffice. Although I cannot be, 100% sure. So we'd have to talk about this. Shall we move on to the next question? Yeah, I'm also looking at the time and at my colleagues here on the left. They nod that we can continue. Arcelia, I don't know how to pronounce your name exactly, I hope I did it well. What kind of jobs do people do after graduating from this master's degree? What kind of programming courses should I take if I don't have experience and knowledge about that? Can you give examples? Well, you don't have to take full programming courses. On our website is a course mentioned. So on the website that I just showed, right, it says, it has a section, I think it's called Considering to Apply. It's for all the students who are not students yet, but are thinking about applying for the program. That section of our website tells you exactly, for example, which programming course you could take online to qualify for this qualitative requirement of having basic programming skills. So I cannot answer this question now because I don't know the exact title of the course. I think it's called Introduction to Computer Programming or something. But the exact URL is on our website under this section, Considering to Apply. Now, the first part of your question, because there's multiple in here, is what kind of jobs do people do after graduating from this master's degree? Yeah, you guys are still studying here, so I guess I can best answer this one, right? So what we generally see is that students in our program, they have an interest in academic research. So many of them want to become an academic researcher. That means they want to continue in a PhD. So that's an ambition of many of our students. I would say that roughly maybe 1/5, something like that, maybe a little less, around that, would actually moves on into a PhD program. And these PhD programs are not necessarily at Leiden University, they can be anywhere in the world. We have had many students move on into PhD programs at various universities. So that's a fraction. Another large part moves on into what is known as the creative industry. Creative industry is, it's a term we use in the Netherlands and perhaps outside that as well, I'm not fully sure. It's a term that describes the conglomeration or the total of all companies that somehow work creatively. So they can be web design firms, they can be firms that make interactive installations for musea, for example. They're very popular among our students to work there. All these companies that work, advertisement firms also fall into this category. But within this subcategory of jobs, many of our students move on into positions where, for example, they make interactive installations for musea worldwide. A small fraction becomes an autonomous artist, and usually the ones that have a background in creative and performing arts already. And there's a fairly significant amount of students who move on in academia as lecturers. Somehow our students, they're the kind of people who also like to lecture, and we have quite many students who become a professor themselves, sometimes also at the University of Applied Sciences, which do not per se require you to have a PhD, so that happens a lot. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
We also during the master's program we organize What's Next alumni talks.
Good point.
So basically we invite alumni to come and speak about what they're doing at the moment, their jobs, and that can be PhD or creative industry people. Very diverse range of alumni that we stay in touch with. So that's also nice.
Actually, next Friday we have one of these events, and the alumnus that is speaking there is a researcher of future visions, basically for the Dutch government, and or in a foundation that is founded by the Dutch government. And so he's really a researcher that researches how people think about the future. And in particular, his specialization is what do people want of their body in the future? What modifications do they want in electronic terms? I think the last session we had was during the S2E course, and we had students who worked really in interactive installation design. Talk there. Yeah, so we still have good contact with our alumni, and we invite them occasionally over to inform our students of what they do, and usually in kind of themed sessions where we have multiple alumni around one theme. Thank you for the addition. Jessica asks, I'm looking for a study where I can bring in my own research interests and find help to realize them. Would this be possible in the Media Technology Master Program? Yes, very much so. I see you guys nodding as well. Trent, do you think that we're a good place to bring in your own research interests? Can you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'll say that when I first interviewed for the program, I was very focused on skills and how am I going to learn certain specific things. And since studying here, I've thought a little bit broader about output, right? Think about what you'll learn here as things are tools, and you could use these to make all kinds of realize your research interest or explore things you maybe didn't even know you were interested in. So yeah, it's an excellent environment for that.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think we're very open, not only in terms of the graduation project where you can really set your own research, but also in the projects that we do in the courses. I think many of the projects that we ask our students to do in the first year courses leave room to basically insert your own interests there. If I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think, Jessica, this is a very good place to do that, actually. Another question, Iris, could you give an example of how students have used film in their final project?
Palingfunk.
Sorry?
Palingfunk.
Palingfunk. Do you know the example?
Yeah.
Can you explain it? It's from a few years before you joined our program, so I'm surprised you know it.
Yeah, but I think we got it in a lecture somewhere, maybe Playful and Creative Science.
Playful and Creative Science, I think.
Yeah.
mentions that project.
It was a really fun example of someone who made a documentary about paling funk, which is a music or dance style.
It's
music
a
style.
non-existent music dance style.
That's a kicker. It's all fake. So he
Yeah.
made a whole fake documentary, but it was really believable. Yeah.
And it was made as part of the S2E course, so to give an experience to an audience. So he would show the movie as it was a real documentary, and it was really well made. I think Paling Funk, if you Google it, you may even be able to find it online somewhere. That's a nice example. I have another example. We had a student a few years ago, Rinus, his name was, and his research project, his graduation research, was about the interaction between drones and birds. He did a very elaborate study in the wild, flying drones to interact with birds. That led to these conclusions and via hypothesis, etc. It's an interesting project, but he had a bigger idea, a bigger thought about why he did this project. It had to do with the autonomy of drones. He wanted drones to become part of basically become autonomous scientists, to autonomously collect data in the world from wild animals. And to explain that part, he wrote it in a thesis, but he thought, who's going to read my thesis? So he made a film out of it. It's a very nice film. I think it's, I forgot the name. Sorry about that. Something was Into the Wild, but I forgot. But he made an animation film that basically provides a context for his graduation work. So the graduation work is really empirical, really measures stuff and draws conclusions. And to contextualize that to a broader audience, he made a film to explain why his research was interesting. And he did that in the form of a future documentary. So he made a short future documentary of a few minutes that plays in the year 2076. And it looks back onto a project from 2016, which was his graduation project. So he used film really as a way to contextualize his own research project. Before we continue with the next question, again from Jessica, I'm going to look at my colleagues for the time. 2-3 minutes, I hear from the director. That should give us some time, right? So Jessica has another question. Do you have many exams that we have to learn for? This is a question for you guys. Trent?
I would say that there are definitely exams, but this program is quite unique in the sense that it gears you towards creating output and making projects and realizing them through a conceptual and a technical process. And there's, I would say, less emphasis on exams than maybe other programs you might be looking at.
Yeah, agree.
Is that fair? Yeah.
Femke, your experience as well?
Yeah, there are a couple of courses that are very theory heavy, and those have exams, but it's not a lot of them. So
I agree. There's not many. I really want to make this the last question, looking at the director who agrees. The last question is by Iris. Just for me to get the context of this master, would you say that one of the fundamental skills you learn in this master is how to bring a message through research in a creative way? Not exactly. It's how to be a creative researcher, how to be creative as an academic. That would, for me, would be the most fundamental skill you learn. And being creative or being autonomous as a researcher means three things. You need to be creative in asking your question. What is it you're going to study? But you can also be creative in how you answer that question, what methods you apply to basically to answer your research question. And thirdly, once you have an answer to your research question, you can be very creative in how you voice, how you basically disseminate this outcome of your research projects, for example, through a documentary or through an interactive installation. So it's not only about bringing the message. That's certainly an important part of being an academic, bringing your message, and we train students to be creative there, but we also train them to be creative in the research question. I just mentioned Rinus Bot, a student with the drones and the birds. This is typically a research question that no one had dared to ask before, and his method was fairly conventional. Just go out and measure it, send drones into the wild via very, very, very specific protocols, make them approach birds via very specific protocols, measure it. So he was very creative in the question and very creative in the output. We've also had students who are very creative in the method. We had a student who wanted to study the effects of Botox facial injections. So Botox injections into the face to smoothen your skin, basically take away the wrinkles. She wanted to study the effect of these injections on your communication skills. Now, this is something that gave us a methodological problem because she wants to inject Botox into her fellow students, which we could not allow. But she had a really good workaround, which is very creative as a method. She created a video filter that had the same effect, together with actual Botox doctors who validated it, and then used that to do her research. So she was very creative in the method. So basically, we train creative academics, not only in bringing a message across, yes, also that, but also in asking questions that in a creative way, in a personally inspired way, finding methods to answer these questions along the same lines. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. What do you think, guys? Shall we wrap it up? Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Trent Erickson and Femke Mostert. Thank you very much for joining us here. My name is Maarten Lamers. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, the information event. And that is our director, Edwin, who just reminded me that I had to inform you that, oh, Edwin, please help me here. What's the date? 23rd of October?
Yeah, so it's October 23rd.
Yeah.
It's at 6 o'clock.
Okay. So let me
post the link in the chat so everybody can find it.
Okay, so in the chat apparently is a link to our next information event. So the next information event for the Media Technology Master of Science program. And that is going to be actually in Leiden on Monday, the 23rd of October. It's going to be in downtown Leiden, so you can travel there easily by train and meet students and professors in real life, hear a story. Some of it will overlap with this story that you heard today, but it's a great way to actually meet us, to get a vibe, feeling for the vibe. And yeah, so you're all invited there for those who are in Holland or are willing to come here for that. Again, thank you very much. Thank you everyone at home. And we get a thank you from Lilith here. You're more than welcome, Lilith. Thanks for attending. Bye everyone.